I'm here to cut through all the nerd speak in the first edition core rulebooks of Dungeons & Dragons. Have you ever wondered what color the dwarves' eyes are? I'll tell you that and more right after this. Greetings, Rod here, and welcome back to the THAC0 Factor. This is part 3.0 of our basic series. Today, we'll start learning about the different races, the classes allowed by each race, and what this means to the absolute beginner. When I started in the 1970s, the DM would have you roll 1d8, minus 1. If it was a 1, you kept it. This is what your race was. Now, for the beginner, this was fine. Partly because you're placed into an already starting campaign, and most people back then were hunters of some sort. Or the salmon were running on the Rogue and Columbia rivers. If this were the case, we knew jerky, smoked duck, pheasant, or salmon would be one of our snacks at the following session. If everyone is ready, run to your bookshelves, grab your player's handbook and your monster manual. We're going to start on page 13 of the player's handbook. Here, we begin to see the next part of the puzzle in our character creation. If you haven't got a copy of the player's handbook or monster manual as of yet, head over to Chris Korchak Booksellers. Chris has a wide variety of RPG books and modules to choose from. I'll post links to his sites in the description area below. When you go to checkout, don't forget to put in the discount code THAC0. That's all capital letters, THAC and 0 for a 20% discount. You won't be sorry. I'll be displaying images of the charts when I reference them. Here near the bottom of page 13 we have character race table number 1. Limitations regarding alignment. On page 14 we have character race table number 2. Class limitations with explanations below it. And on page 15 we have the character race table number 3. Ability minimums and maximums by sex. This table is seldomly used specifically for sex, but is used for the ability minimum and maximum for allowances. All dwarves are able to speak the following: Dwarven, Gnome, Kobold, and Orcish, along with the common tongue and alignment. Regardless of how high their intelligence might be, they're only able to learn an additional 2 languages. They're able to see on the infrared spectrum up to 60 feet in the dark. And because of the time that dwarves spend in the mines, they're able to detect within 10 feet the following: detect grade or slope, up or down, 75% probability. That's 1d4 score at 1 through 3. Detect new construction or passages, tunnels, 75% of the time. And that's just like detecting grades or slopes. Detect shifting or sliding rooms or walls at a 66 2/3%. That's a 1d6 score on 1 through 4. Detect traps involving pits, falling blocks, and other stonework, or 50% probability. That's a d4 score 1 through 2, or a d6 score 1 through 3. And determine their distance underground at 50%. A player must state that they are actively seeking this information. You don't just give it to them automatically. It's not one of those things they learn through osmosis. Aside from all this, dwarves are limited to level based on their ability scores. A dwarf fighter with a strength of 16 or lower is limited to level 7. And 17 strength, they're limited to level 8. Whereas they're unlimited in levels if they choose to be a thief clan. When I was in the army, one of the guys in the supply room had a dwarven fighter named Metallican. Pretty funny name. He was a Metallica fan, who wasn't all that popular in town with anybody. One day he shows up with a really nasty scar right across the right side of his cheek, all the way down from his eye to his mouth. Pretty soon you know he's the talk of the inn. Hilarious. Nobody knew how terribly he failed 2 intelligence checks at a -4 for ability, and 3 dexterity checks at a -2, each for using a weapon for an unintended purpose. All he was trying to do was make a battle axe guitar for his bard friend for his birthday. On page 35 of the monster manual is a really good description of the dwarf. They have it listed as an NPC, but this would also be very helpful for the player character as well. Dwarves typically are armored with a chainmail and a shield, giving them an armor class of 4. They have a great hatred for goblins, orcs, and hobgoblins. And when fighting against these, they receive a +1 bonus on hit. Ogres, trolls, and giants suffer from -4. This is because of their size. For those interested in drawing a dwarf character, they're typically deep tan brown, ruddy cheeks, bright eyes, almost never blue, brown hair. They prefer their clothes to be a earth tone. They're around 4 feet tall, weigh no less than 150 pounds. They have a very muscular build, and they live for no less than 350 years on average. Dwarves are what I consider to be one of the most in-depth, complex, and publicized races out there. You can find plenty of information in books and magazines. And magazine, Dragon magazine, Dungeon magazine, Gygax, Polyhedron magazine, and the 2nd edition Player's Reference Guide, PHBR6, the complete book of dwarves. Next session we'll be looking at elves and gnomes. Here's your question for the day. What do you think about a dwarf as a playable race? Could you see yourself playing one? A fighter in search of the fabled axe of the Dwarven Lords? Comment below. And don't forget, not every character is epic. Until a traveling bard hears about your adventures, then you're legendary.